So on this Flower Sunday, I always like to tell the story of the original flower sharing service. So that's what I'm going to share with you today. It's the story of Norbert Čapek and his flower ceremony. And this particular version was written by the Reverends Teresa and David Schwartz. When I was in seminary in Chicago, they were the co-ministers at First Unitarian Society down in Hyde Park. Which the reason I stuck that third picture in there, and it's kind of blurry, I'm sorry, but First Unitarian Society is actually a cathedral. And there's a lot of those out in New England, but there's not many in the Midwest. And so it's really cool to have a cathedral that's Unitarian, and it was like one of the centers of humanism in the mid-20th century. So that juxtaposition, you got get your head wrapped around that. So as the reason I put the picture in today, not just for information purposes, but the story we're going to talk about is about a big Unitarian church in Prague, Czechoslovakia. And they likely had something like a cathedral like this. So you can kind of imagine that with the story. So here we are, the story of Norbert Čapek's flower ceremony. His mother was a devout Catholic, his father agnostic. He became an acolyte at the age 10 in 1890 in St. Martin's Catholic Church. In the years that followed, he became disillusioned. After all, his priest was a cynic. At 18, when he was apprenticing to his uncle, a successful tailor in Vienna, Norbert discovered the Baptists and became a minister. He was very successful. He founded almost a dozen churches from Ukraine to Budapest. Yet slowly, his faith became more and more liberal. He left Bohemia under government threat and accepted a call to serve a Baptist church in New York City until one day in 1919. That day he wrote in his diary, "I cannot be a Baptist anymore, even in compromise. The fire of new desires, new worlds is burning in me." So Norbert and his wife, Maya Čapek, joined a Unitarian church a couple years later in New Jersey in 1921. And they did it, frankly, for the same reason maybe many of you joined here, because their children really liked the religious education program at the time. So that kind of gives you a little bit of the power of religious exploration on Sunday school and Sunday morning school teachers. So kids, that's a lot of power they have. I did the same thing with my parents. Well, anyway, World War I ended, and his home country now independent, he and Maya returned home to Czechoslovakia. His Unitarian church was the Prague Liberal Religious Fellowship, and in just 20 years, his church had grown into the largest Unitarian church on the planet. It had 3,200 members. Now, the traditional Christian communion service of bread and wine wouldn't meet the needs of his congregation because his church, like ours here, had people who believed different things. Čapek turned to beauty of the countryside, to the beauty of flowers. In 1923, he developed the flower ceremony. He asked his congregation to bring the flower to church from their gardens, the field, or the roadside. He invited each person to place their flower in a vase, and there, in those vases, was the church community, no less unique for being united. Following the service, each person could take a flower from the vase, a different one than they had brought. Well, Čapek was a visionary minister with a church way ahead of its time, a bold church, a church thinking beyond its doors, beyond what it thought possible. It was a church that was willing to take risks, to make tough decisions, to bear disappointment, and to build a new way. First, by building a church out of nothing, and that church then could build up the world around it. That's the same as this church, I think, as well. And that was Čapek's church. But for this, the Gestapo arrested him in 1942. The Nazis accused Čapek of listening to foreign broadcasts and sent him to Dachau concentration camp. Even in starvation and torture, he held a flower ceremony with his fellow prisoners, finding whatever flowers they could among the weeds of the camp. Some people say most of them just had pieces of grass. They testified to a beauty larger than themselves and a love that would outlive them. The Nazis killed Norbert Čapek, but his spirit, courage, and commitment live on today. Those qualities have passed now to us to make them real. Well, his wife, Maya, had brought their 2 children right at the outbreak of the war, fled Czechoslovakia to the United States. And so she was safe and brought the flower ceremony to the Unitarian Church in Cambridge, Massachusetts in 1940. And that was the beginning of it in the United States. So what we're about to do is not a historical reenactment of something over and done, but an affirmation of our continuity with the generations of struggle for the ever-widening liberty and freedom of expression. The flower ceremony, lovely though it is, isn't a diversion from ugly reality, but a gentle fierceness which proclaims that in the midst of the sinister days, there is always the light of beauty. We're not here to recall something that happened, but to remember something that is happening, to remember, to put it back together again. And in that remembering, may we put ourselves back together again, each as a part of the body of this community, out of the many, one. So today we celebrate this ritual of solemnity, community, and joy. As Čapek asked his people to bring a flower and celebrate beauty, so shall we. That's the end of the reading. So I just had a few thoughts on it that I wanted to share and bring it to us. We've heard 2 stories sort of about flowers. One was just me talking with the kids about what this is all about. In a healthy garden, so just a few metaphors I want to remind you about, that flowers don't flourish alone. In a healthy garden, different plants support one another, like I was talking about the corn and the beans and the squash. Some provide shade, some provide soil, some provide for the pollinators, some protect their neighbors from pests. Each contributes something unique, and together they create an ecosystem that's strong, healthier, and more beautiful than any single plant could create on its own. Now, the second story about Čapek, who created the flower ceremony, he understood something important about human communities. We flourish kind of in the same way as gardens do. His congregation included people of very different beliefs, backgrounds, and life experiences. And I can only imagine in the early 1920s how unique a Unitarian church in Prague must have been that was so open to so many different beliefs. So rather than asking everyone to be the same, he invited them to bring a flower. So a rose is still a rose, and a daisy is still a daisy, and a wildflower is a wildflower. And their beauty was not found in becoming identical. It was found in growing together. I think that vision remains at the heart of Unitarian Universalism. We're a people that understand that diversity is not a problem to be solved. Diversity is to be celebrated. We all come here from different families, cultures, generations, professions, spiritual paths. We have different opinions, life experiences, different strengths, different struggles. And yet, like the flowers in front of us, we all belong here together. The bouquets, and we have a live plant too this year. That's cool. So like all of these that are on our table remind that we're a living reminder of the truth. No single flower created this display. It exists because of the many people that contributed them. Every blossom matters, every color matters, every shape matters. And that's the same thing that's true in this congregation. right? Some of us bring wisdom that have been here for years and years and years. Other brings new identity, new energy, new ideas. Some offer music. Some compassion, leadership. Some offer quiet acts of service to each other that we never ever see. I saw Mike helping somebody yesterday with the chairlift, and I thought, you know what? That's fabulous. Some bring questions that help us grow, and some bring courage when it's most needed. But together, we create something that none of us could create alone. Čapek understood so deeply that he carried the flower ceremony even into the darkest circumstances imaginable. While imprisoned in Dachau, surrounded by cruelty and despair, he and his fellow prisoners gathered flowers among the weeds. Why? Why would you do that? Because flowers remind us that beauty still exists even in a concentration camp. They were reminded that hope was still possible. And they were reminded that every human being possesses dignity that no tyrant can destroy. The flower ceremony is therefore more than a pleasant tradition. It's an act of faith. Not in faith in a particular creed, but in faith in one another. In a world that often encourages division, I think this ritual teaches belonging. In a world that rewards competition, this ritual offers cooperation. In a world that can leave people isolated, the ritual teaches interdependence. So today, as we share flowers with one another, may we remember that each of us has something valuable to offer. May we recognize the gifts we bring and receive with gratitude the gifts others bring. And may we continue to build this congregation where every person can grow, every voice can be heard, and every life can flourish. Just as flowers flourish together in a garden, so do we. Out of many, one community. Out of many flowers, one bouquet. Of many lives, one beloved congregation. United. May it be so.